Hi guys, excellent evening everyone. Hello Femi, Henry Ukoha, talk to Eki. Hey guys, Liliana Fred 2, Lillian Alfred 2, okay? Yes, I'm always on time. Anywhere I go, anything I do, I'm always on time. Yeah, I think I should okay. All right. So, excellent evening, everyone. Welcome again to tonight's conversation on rape. We are still going to be talking about this for as long as we can to ensure that we educate people on the ills of rape. We try to help people not to get caught up. We try to help families that are, that have one or two members of their household that have been raped before. So this conversation needs to keep going on, and I'll do my possible best to see that we keep having this conversation. It's not something that would just start and stop now. So I have a guest tonight. I'm just about to add her now so that we can have this conversation together. Today we're talking about the behavioral patterns of a rapist, so to speak, or behavioral patterns leading to rape. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Yay.
Excellent evening,
Thanks for
Doctor.
having me.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. How's it going? How was your day?
Fine, very well.
How was your week?
Very well, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Have you, it's a bit blurry. Have you positioned your camera?
Okay. Okay, is this better?
Yeah, but I think it's network. I
Okay.
can see you now. Yeah,
Okay.
I can see you now.
Okay.
So I usually like us to get into the meat quite
Okay.
early, and I know you've been aware. You've been watching social media, television houses, newspaper on the rape cases we've had so far.
Yeah.
We had a very popular case recently, and it seems to me like the cases are increasing. I saw a couple today on social media, and I'm wondering what's really happening. So you hearing all of those news on how people are being raped and killed, and some are just defiling minors. What comes to your mind? How do you feel about it?
Okay, so definitely stuff like rape has been happening for many years. It's been going on for a long time. It's just because of social media that we're now a bit more aware. We have the opportunity to send such messages across very quickly now, so we're a bit more aware. It's unfortunate, of course. It's not something we want to encourage. But for me, I think it tells on our parenting. It shows that we need to do a lot more when it comes to parenting.
Okay.
Teach our sons more, pay more attention to our boys, not just the girls. Get them to understand what these things are, how to control their urges and stuff like that. So I think for us, it tells on the parents. We just need to put in more work. It's not just a government thing or I think parents should put in more work.
It's a collective responsibility. Yeah. So before I go ahead, I forgot that I didn't mention your name. We have with us in the house tonight Dr. Olayinka Jibunoh, and she is a consultant. She's a psychiatrist. She's a psychologist. She goes school. She know book. Okay, she's going to be breaking the information down for us in such a way that we would understand. Are you smiling?
I'm with you.
Yes. So, doctor, I would like you to give us more like a definition of rape and what it entails, because a lot of people have different definitions. Some will say when it's forceful or it's not forceful and all of that. I want you to break it down for us. What is rape exactly?
Okay, so we say that a rape is actually not a medical diagnosis. It's more of a legal term, and it's actually the act of penile penetration of the victim's vagina, mouth, or anus without consent.
Okay.
And it's, we won't just say, so that's penile penetration, but there are also other forms of sexual assault. So rape can be classified as a type of sexual assault. Rape itself is penetration. However, assault goes beyond penetration. We have other things like maybe forcing other objects into the person, fondling the person, using foul language, touching the person inappropriately, or even exposing the person to pornography. So that is sexual harassment in a nutshell. However, rape itself is penile penetration of the vagina, the anus, or the mouth without the person's consent.
Okay. So, are there, in your opinion, are there different types of rape? Because when I hear people say that all should be categorized as rape, we have the ones that you have to defile minors. We have the ones that you have to, forcefully rape and beat. We also have the ones that we hear, especially when it comes to husband and wife, that I didn't give consent or I gave consent. So, are there different types of rape, in your opinion?
So, rape is a legal term. I said it's a legal term.
Yeah.
And in the legal field, they are always updating their books. They are always updating this thing. So it's normal to find that maybe this year they come up with a new terminology for it when you rape a child, because that's the law. So they could come up with a new term. You rape a child below 16 or below 18, then it's this, is that. Those are legal terms. But in terms of psychology now, we talk about the psychology of the rapist. Several studies have been done on people that have been incarcerated for rape, and they've seen certain patterns in those people. And over time, we've seen that there are four main patterns of four main types of rapists based on their psychology during the act, the kind of things they say during the act, the way they behave during the act. And we have four main categories. So the first one is the caring, the persuasive, and the reassuring rapist, who during the act, he seems to be saying nice things. He's caring, but he did not seek the person's consent. He's still forcing himself in, but he seems to be saying nice things like, I won't hurt you, I just want to have sex with you, the way you've been carrying this your body, you've been attracting me, stuff like that. But he did not seek for consent. He's going ahead to do what he wants to do. Then we had the type that would use sexually abusive language, and say, oh, see, you have sex written all over your face, you are this, you are that, the way you move your hips, you are very explicit and abusive language. He would use that during the act. We also have those that are angry and would be very angry and say demeaning things during the act or threatening things. So they would say, I will kill you, you're a bitch, you're this, you're that, really angry and demeaning. Those are most likely the ones that would still kill afterwards. So they would say those hurtful things and afterwards strangle the person or kill the person eventually. So we have stuff like that. And then we have the ones that are doing it for revenge. So maybe she's an ex-girlfriend, she's moved on just to revenge or pay back. Now he rapes her and during the act he's saying things like, oh, you think you can leave me? Wow. You can't leave me, stuff like that. And then, so with the angry one and the revenge one, those are the ones that could kill the person afterwards just because they're really angry during the act and they're vengeful. So
yeah, doctor, do
those are the four types, yeah.
Yes, okay. So we've established the four types of rape now. But do you think that for someone to get off of another person's pain, that is actually a normal mind that will have to that can do that? You derive joy in you can even get an erection and climax when somebody is screaming and saying no. Do you think it's for normal human beings?
Yeah. So there are certain traits that are associated with rapists. Several studies have been done. It's been replicated all over the world. So we see that there are certain characteristics. Rapists have an inherent issue with power, and control, anger issues, power issues. So within them, there are some anger issues and power issues. They're just looking for an outlet. So just unfortunate that the girl walking by is just the person they're going to take out that anger on, or that their issue. Power structure. So maybe the person from childhood has had some issues, self-esteem issues, power issues, and over time they've just been carried along, never seen a psychologist, never worked with anyone to just address those underlying issues. And unfortunately, they've not been able to dissociate their sexual arousal from anger. So you could find that a young man growing up, maybe in his early adolescence, could find that he gets angry, maybe he gets aroused when he's angry. You know, that's something that we should learn to teach our sons to dissociate. You want to dissociate anger or aggression from sexual arousal. Yes, because that's what happens with rape. So with rape, the person is angry or it's aggressive or it's angry. Let's just say the person is angry. And at that time, because of that anger or during that anger, becomes sexually aroused. So he's angry at that point. We say usually when there's anger that is beyond, the situation, we usually say there's something that we call an amygdala hijack, where the person's reasoning is not.
You're not thinking at the moment.
Your emotions are taking over. The anger is taking over. You're not really reasoning as you should. And at that point, because he's also sexually aroused, he sees a girl walking by. She just automatically becomes the victim. Then his next victim, he just takes out that anger on the girl. So his aggression turned outwards. He takes it out on the girl and just carries out the act, and then he leaves. So if a young man learns to associate both anger and sexual arousal, he can become a potential rapist at some point. So it's important for us to teach our young boys to dissociate those two feelings, emotions. Yes. So that's why I personally have an issue with when people say, "Oh, make up sex," because make up sex, you're practically associating anger. You fought with someone. You guys fought, just got into an argument. You're angry with each other, and you're now sexually aroused, and you say, "Oh, make up sex is good." It's best to learn to dissociate anger from, dissociate your anger from your sexual urge or your sexual arousal. It's very important.
Doctor, this is very powerful, because I remember that while I was in the university, we used to have these guys that beat up their girlfriends, and while they are beating the girlfriend, before you just hear they block the door and they have sex. And you're wondering, at what point did you go from anger to just having sex right now? So this just explains it. So that tells me that we have a lot to do in raising our young men, and not just leaving them to chance. That after all, you're a man. You find your way.
Yes.
We need to pay close attention to raising them properly. Now, let me ask you, what are some of the behaviors that society condones that could likely lead to rape? Certain things you see young boys exhibit growing up that may lead them into having this into rape sometime in the future. What are some of those red flags that we see from our young men, and we say, we need to talk about this, we need to talk about this?
So we have the cultural issues, the traditional male role, where you believe, the man is all knowing, the man knows it all, the man can do no wrong, and then that man sees a woman as an object that can be tossed or thrown around at any time. When we allow that kind of perception continue, or we condone that kind of culture, you automatically put women in a lesser role, and you allow men, objectify women and can use them as they like. So if you let your young boy or your child grow up like that, seeing a woman as an object, of course, he can do whatever he wants with any woman, and of course, they're just objects, so I can do whatever I want. So it's important for us to change that stereotype, change that stereotype in line with what we see in the West now, so that, our young boys don't continue. So this thing that seems to be like something that's becoming endemic in our areas doesn't persist into future generations. Yeah. It's very important.
Yeah. Okay, so for you, what are some of those, let me even ask this. Do you think there's a close connection between alcohol use, alcohol addiction, drug addiction to rape? Is there any close connection?
It's possible, because with alcohol use, you become disinhibited. So one of the things that alcohol will do to you is make you a bit more disinhibited. So for example, you're a very shy person and you drink a bit of alcohol, you notice that you loosen up a bit, you're a bit freer. That's disinhibition. So, and you see, or maybe someone that is not so shy, very outgoing, drinks a bit of alcohol and becomes very loud and becomes very annoying, talking too much. So alcohol makes you disinhibited. And when you're disinhibited, you can now carry out acts that you would normally not do. And rape is one of those things. So person that would probably not rape a girl on a regular
Normal
day
day.
might actually carry out the act when he's had, yes, he will carry out the act when he's had a few drinks. So it's possible.
Okay, so let's talk about pornography. There was a recent research that a lot of Nigerian men and women, not just men, are addicted to pornography. I think it was during the lockdown or just before the lockdown, they carried out a research and found out that there was a particular site that they had more Nigerians, about 80% of Nigerians frequenting. And in those sites, most of the type of porn that is being watched is the rape porn, the violent kind of porn. Now, I also know that sometimes there was somebody that was explaining that men sometimes have a lot of sexual fantasies. And when they don't have somebody who they can use that fantasy on, the next available weak person, it could be transferred on that person. So is there any link with the fact that a lot of young men these days, and even older men, because it's not just the young men that are raping, the older men are raping, the rich, the poor, it cuts across all strata. So is there any connection with this porn and fantasies to rape and what we're seeing now?
Interesting. So, there's always that thing about what you feed yourself with. If you continue to feed yourself, whatever you feed your mind with is what you would act out. So, of course, if you start to fantasize, if you're watching a lot of rape porns and you're fantasizing about that, of course, you would act it out eventually. That's what happens. What you take in is what will come out eventually. Yes. So, I think whatever you take in is what will come out. So I think that's just my response to your question.
Okay, so you think now that probably because a lot of guys are addicted to porn, that's why we're having so many cases of rape?
I won't say, initially when you asked me for having more cases, I said it's always been there. There's always been, just because we have social media now, that's why we're saying it. It's always been there. It's always been underreported,
Okay.
It's always existed. It's not, I don't think.
Okay. So let's go to the victims of rape now. I know that because of society, there's always this stigma when you come out to say, I've been raped, and people would want to blame you. A lot of people blame you. The women will blame you. The men will blame you. And sometimes the person who is raped doesn't have that support to come out and speak. And so they allow it linger for a very long time. Now, can you go a bit into the mind of someone who just experiences rape, what they are feeling, what they are going through, and what the people around them can do to support them?
Okay, so with rape, our culture, we hold our virginity or our sexuality with very high esteem. We've been raised like that. As a young girl, protect yourself, your virginity is important. And then someone just comes out of nowhere and takes it from you, or devalues yours, or makes you feel less human. It can have psychological and physical effects. We know the physical effects. There can be injuries and tears and HIV and so many things like that. But psychologically, which is even worse, there's so many consequences, from the immediate to the short term and even the long term. So we know, of course, in the immediate term, the girl will be confused, wondering, blaming herself. Was it what I wore? Why did I go there? Why was I alone in the room with the guy? So many things can run through her mind in the immediate term. And that her ability to overcome those feelings in the immediate term will determine if she will go on to develop things like depression or post-traumatic stress disorder, or an acute stress disorder, which can then progress to a PTSD. So that how she handles those psychological distress in the immediate term will determine if she'll go on to have a long-term, mental health condition or a mental health disorder. So it can be very devastating. It can have a big effect on the woman. For me, I believe that for our justice system, the ideal place the girl will go to will be the emergency system or the police. I believe that we should learn to refer them to appropriate quarters. We shouldn't just say, okay, go and get the HIV test done or hepatitis and all. Let's get them psychological help. Because they might look very normal at that point, look very okay, like they're handling it, but on the long term, the effects will still show. So it's very important for us to get them the psychological help they need right after the rape, you know,
Immediately.
which we call psychological first aid. So it's important for them to get psychological first aid right after the event, the incidents.
Okay, but I know that there are some cases that you take to the police and they are not handling it the way we expect them to handle it. Even the lawmakers that are making the laws are not making the kind of laws. Now, I said, you know that sometimes most of these cases are reported to the police. Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me?
I didn't get that.
Okay, I said sometimes these cases are taken to the police. The cases are being reported, yes, to the police. And the cases are not handled the way we expect them to handle. Because I believe, in all honesty, that to prove a rape case is quite difficult, especially if it's past time. So in your opinion, what do you tell someone who has been raped? What's the timing to report? Because sometimes out of shame, you don't want to take your body to the police station where they start questioning you and telling you things like, wait till you wear go there, where you sit down when he see you, and all those kind of things. So what's the duration? How do you want someone who goes through that to handle herself before reporting? Do you just carry your body to the police station, or do you get witnesses around to see what has just happened? How do you just handle it?
Considering the type of system we have, I would suggest you go first to the hospital.
So
because the evidence you need, the evidence you need can be gotten from the hospital. So if you get to the hospital and the doctor examines you, sees signs of trauma, is able to get some semen samples from you, those are things, evidence that you can use in the legal system.
Okay.
So I believe that the hospital should be the first point where you can be examined, and evidence, you can have valuable evidence that you can now take to a lawyer to take the case to court. So for me, in our society, the hospital.
Okay. So you know that this rape case, they are like two, I like to categorize them into two. So we have the ones that probably a minor has been defiled or was defiled, or you have like the case of Uwa where she was reading and the guy came and raped her and ran away, or the case of 12 men gang raping a 12-year-old in Jigawa, you know, those type of cases. But we have the other type of cases where a woman goes to visit a man, you know, so to speak, and you want to do the other things, like you want to kiss, you want to smooch, you want to touch the neck and all of that, but you don't want to go down, okay? And now the guy is already hard, and you then say no, and the guy says, you can't leave me hanging, I'm already hard, I have to get in, and the rape happens. How do you, because I like people who are straightforward, who their no is no and their yes is yes. How do you now start teaching young women, first of all, to say no from the beginning and not lead him on to that point where you now say no? And how do you start teaching the young men self-control, that even if you're at the tip and the girl says no, just bring it out? Where do we draw the line?
It's a very heavy question.
It's heavy in my mouth.
So I think for us women, we should, we know that there's always that possibility. You know, there's always that possibility that you could be in a room with a man and then he takes it further than you really want. So we should always have that at the back of our minds. And really, if you don't want things to get out of hand, don't put yourself in that situation. That's what I think. You know, if you know that you're not prepared to go all the way, then don't even get into that situation, because it might get ugly, you know. And for the men, I think from early on, from adolescence, when their hormones are raging, that's when they should learn to control those urges. You know, at that point, when they start and you know, those hormones come, and they're, you know, from early on, when they start to talk to their parents, talk to your dads, especially their dads, the dads need to have those conversations with them from the very start. You know, learn to go and have that cold shower or something, or get your mind up or switch your mind off and stuff like that, and not progress further. You know, if our legal system was actually up to scratch, like you have in the Western, that's what keeps the Western society in check. The fact that if you go too far, and I take it to, I could make you go bankrupt. You know, I could end your life by just taking this to the legal system. The guys would just zip up just because of that. So if the society would just encourage us, you know, our legal system could encourage us and be, you know, a bit more firm when it comes to things like this, the men even would naturally will sit up. That's what I think.
So are we even for real? Because I think it's a bit unfair. And I'm saying this because I understand how some ladies are. So you know in your mind from the beginning that you don't want to get that far. And then you lure him to the point where he's ready. And then you say no. Shouldn't we talk to the ladies more to say, don't even bother, like you rightly said in the beginning. Don't get into that position. Don't put yourself there. Don't say there's nothing like I want to do half and stop. Don't go there. Shouldn't we put that out? Because a lot of guys come to say, you caused it. You made me do this because you knew that I just had to have done this for me and you know what even pains me more? They do it for a very long time. So you take like 2 hours smooching. And then it's time for the action and you say no. Isn't that unfair to the man?
Yeah. So that's a lot of green lights, and then at the end, you now change it to a red light. So I think when girls are gisting and we're having our girl talk and we're doing our usual, these are the conversations that should come up, really.
Okay.
We shouldn't just be talking about shoes and bags and, you know, other girls. Let's talk about things like this. You know, really, if you know you don't want to do, don't take it that far. Because the guy you think might be able to, he might not be able to control himself. You know, he might not be able to control himself. So just don't take it that far if you know you're not ready for it.
Do you also think, you know, our society, sorry to say, but it's we're in a patriarchal society, and the men sort of have a sense of entitlement that you're a woman, that means you belong to me. So whether you're married or not, the fact that I'm a man means I'm superior to you. Could it be that it's one of the reasons we're having a lot of rape cases where men feel, if I want it, I can have it, and there's nothing anybody can do about it?
Oh, yes. That's the traditional male rule we're talking about. So in a society where the man feels he's everything, nothing can happen, I'm above the law, you know, women are just objects, you know. Yes, that fuels the whole rape thing. Yes.
So it's patriarchy. So is there anything you think we can start doing in terms of educating the young men and the women to understand that because you're a man doesn't necessarily mean you're superior? Is there anything we can do in that light? Is there anything we can do for secondary school children? Because I believe that most of these habits start from secondary school. You can already tell the way the guys are going before they get out of secondary school. So is there any sensitization you think we should be having? Like for instance, now we're having this conversation so that people will understand what this is and how to, you know, look out for it, avoid it. Is there anything you think we can be doing specifically to handle this entitlement? So make the guys understand that you should respect a woman. You don't own a woman because you're a man. Is there anything you think we can do?
No, so education is very important, especially from a very early age. So we have the civic education in school and moral instructions. I think from very early on in primary schools, we should start to talk about introduce sex education. So not age appropriate sex education. Okay. And at some point, the talk about consent will come in. You know, they talk about respecting a woman's body, respecting her views. If we start to do it very early on, it would make a big difference. And we've seen that educating children in that way also has like a ripple effect, because they go back home and they tell their family members. So even those their parents and their family members that didn't learn it when they were in school, by the time they go back home and they say, oh, my teacher said this, my teacher said that. In a way, you have not only taught that child, you have taught everyone else in that family about that.
Okay.
So it's something that we should consider introducing, adjusting our curriculum and getting the children to understand these things from very early on.
Okay. Yeah, another thing that comes to my mind is the fact that the societies that are engaged in a lot of rape cases, that have a lot of rape cases, are societies that their sexual, what do I call it now? Their sexual desires are suppressed for whatever reason. So people don't come out to express what they actually feel. There's a lot of hypocrisy And that is where Nigeria is at its seams. You know, we don't talk about sex, you know now. We don't, it's something you don't say. If you say, they'll look at you like you're loose, you are a prostitute, and all of that. So there are a lot of desires that are suppressed. And it's what we now see is the side effect of that, where men are now transferring this, you know, suppression on women that they can overpower. So do you think that as a society, we need to be upfront about sex? It's not okay anymore to, you know, talk about it in secret and hush, hush, hush. We should be bold enough to speak about it. Do you think that may likely change the narrative for us now?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. It's good that we're now have people that come out and say they're sex therapists. You know, they're moving the conversation
Sex
forward.
coaching.
I think things like that are very, very, very important, because truly, in psychology, we know that as sex plays a big role in our psychology. You know, with Freud practically the father of psychology, who is Sigmund Freud, who linked. Well, Freud practically linked every psychological issue to sex.
Are you kidding?
but it's just, I had a point where he says that, you know, your psychosexual health is really very important. You know, if deep within you have so much burden within you, a lot you're hiding. You know, that's why you see maybe a child that feels he's gay and is hiding that thing within him. Over time, you see that he's not functioning optimally because he has a secret he's hiding. And you find that at some point they now come out, and once they come out, they feel better, they're more confident, they're happy. So it just shows that your sexuality really is a big part of you. It's a big part of you. So if our society is one where you're encouraged to hide the way you feel within, we're not helping ourselves. So yes, thank God we're having conversations like this. Well, because the younger generation is more open to talking about things like this. I think at least there's hope. Because now younger generation will talk more about it.
Sex,
and then we'll be more expressive, really. We'll be more real. Stop being hypocritical. And
yes,
it will pay us on the long run. Yes, it will pay us on the long run.
Yeah. Yes. Let me ask you this. What do you expect right now from our religious leaders? You know, because I see, I've contacted a few men to have this conversation with me, and they're running away. They don't want to have the conversation. And I'm wondering, why are you running now? We need more men to have this conversation, because the young men out there are looking up to you. The young boys out there are looking up to you. And you guys are not talking to your kids enough. You just leave them and feel they are the men. They will find their way. So what do you expect from religious leaders, for instance? The men, they have a large multitude that they control, that are under them. What do you expect them to be doing right now with these cases? I know a few of them spoke in the papers about the Uwa case and all of that. But do you think they should do more than just, you know, write something in the newspaper? Do you think they should take this issue to the pulpit? What do you think? What do you expect from them?
Oh, so we see right now, we see that some Pentecostal churches actually talk about sex on the pulpit. So they talk about sex in marriage, sexual issues. I think it's good. Because if you talk about finances, you talk about other things, you don't talk about those things, like we said, that are burning people up on the inside. You're just, they will come, leave your church, and they're still burning on the inside. So you notice that there's some pastors that come on stage, and you see them on social media. They're having those conversations. I think other churches should also encourage it, especially the traditional ones, the traditional churches. Everything should be, there should be nothing should be off topic. Everything can be discussed, because those are the things that affect our lives. And if they say that they want their congregation to live optimally, be very productive, then they should be able to talk about anything and everything, you know. Yes. I think it should be encouraged.
It should be encouraged that we talk about it. So I know that you work in, you have, there's this work you do, I think is it a psychiatric hospital where you attend to a rehabilitation center, so to speak?
So I run a mental health practice. We offer mental health and neurological care.
Okay.
So when we say mental and neurological care, it just has anything that has to do with the brain. You know, you can walk in and see the psychiatrist, psychologist, or even the neurologist.
Okay.
And one of those things that affects the brain is the use of psychoactive substances. So when you abuse things like alcohol or marijuana or cocaine. You know, they work on the brain, they affect the brain. So we also manage that at our center.
Okay.
Yes,
So
we
do you
also
have
manage
cases?
children.
Okay. Have you
Yeah, so when
had
we talk about
rape
mental
cases?
health,
Have you had people coming in after they are raped and they want someone to help them
no,
walk it through?
no, I haven't had
So
that.
the
No,
silence
I
is
think
there.
our system, you know, naturally people will go straight to the police station. So we need to change that narrative that instead of going to the police station, go and see a doctor,
Okay.
because the doctor would examine you, get all the necessary details you need that can be used as in a forensic case, you know, that can we can put together a forensic case that you can now take to court.
Okay.
So I think it's better that way. Yes, I think it's better that way, because as psychiatrists, we have forensic psychiatrists who testify in court. So, for example, if you were raped and you came to see me and I examined you and found all these things within you, and then you now eventually got a lawyer and had to go to court, the psychiatrist has a role to play on that day. So I can come into court and testify about what I saw, what I realized, all the things I saw when I examined you. I'm a neutral party. You just came in and I examined you, and you know, I can testify of everything I saw, and we analyze it. We send the semen for analysis. Everything we see, we can testify, and that can make your case stronger. You know, and you could actually win that case if we're able to prove it. So let's change the narrative. Let's go to the doctor first, get examined,
They are more equipped
and
to
have evidence that
examine
we can
you.
now take to court.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and have
That would make
evidence we can
sense.
take to court.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
So I saw a case yesterday and today where a 2-year-old was being defiled, and the mother found out and started beating the child, nearly blinded the girl. And her reason was, I've been warning the girl not to go close to the man. That's an elderly man, not to go close to the man. And she's very stubborn. She keeps getting close to the man. And then she woke up one night and saw that the man was defiling her 2-year-old. And all she could do was to beat up that child. I cried today when I saw that. So it still tells me that the mentality of some people are still very low. They do not understand what's about. They do not understand how the victim is not to blame, but the rapist. So what sort of education or conversations do you think we can put out there to sensitize the people that the victims are not to blame? A lot of people blame the victim for whatever reason.
So I think with the campaigns, there are campaigns going on. I think for now, this is a good time to strengthen the campaigns that are going on now.
Okay.
Strengthen it. We have psychological evidence that shows that really the perpetrators are the ones at fault, because they're just transferring their aggression.
Okay.
You know, they're transferring their lack of power, their anger issues, passing it out onto someone else. So we need to strengthen the campaign with those kind of information and break it down to local languages, so that even the woman that sells pepper on the street understands that when it comes to rape, if your husband or your husband is raping your stepdaughter or whatever, that your husband is to blame, because he probably has some anger issues and is transferring aggression to that girl. It's not that the girl wore trousers on that day. So we need to change that narrative. We need to strengthen the campaigns for people to understand and point the finger back at the perpetrators with evidence. Because now what we're just saying is, oh, don't blame the girl, blame the man, blame the girl. But we're not backing it with evidence. There's evidence to back this. Evidence has been around since 1980s. We have a prominent psychologist called Bandura, who did a lot of work on the psychology of rapists. You know, so we know that the rapist is to blame. There's a lot of anger. So let's back our campaign up with this evidence. Let's just not say, just like how you say no to drugs. You can't just say no to drugs. You back it up with evidence. So that way, when you're saying it, people will be convinced. Do you understand? Am I making sense?
Yes, you are. You are.
Yes,
so you have something to show for it. So what do we also do to family members who now decide to settle out of court because they don't want the case to go on, or they are tired of the case, or the fact that the perpetrators have bribed them? How do we keep the cases in courts? Because we need to see more convictions. I believe that we need to see more convictions so that it will deter the perpetrators from getting into this sort of act.
The law is about I think that has to be enforcing the law, but it's always important to understand that when a person has been a victim of rape, we should also consider that person's say, how that person feels, you know, that they are we should help that person get closure. So it's important when we have the conversations, because you find that maybe a girl has been raped, they're talking over her head, so it's her parents arguing with the perpetrator. Nobody's asking the victim how she feels. Nobody's asking her, what do you want, you know, how would you feel this will help you feel better? What do you just want to slap the man and then you're okay? You know, nobody's actually asking her what would help her feel better. We just take the decision, because going to jail really might not even help the girl feel better. The girl, locking up the man in jail and then the guy is there for 20 years might not even help the girl feel better. At the end of the day, the girl needs that psychological care. We should be able to get what will make that girl feel better, you know. For someone, it might be, I don't know, I can't make any excuses.
You can't say, yeah.
The most important thing, yes, the most important thing is just that in those situations, we should be able to get the victim to express themselves and say what will make them feel better. So for some people, it might just be sorry. If he just says, I'm sorry, I won't do it to anyone. I don't know. I won't do it to anyone else. You know, you never can tell, but everyone is different. You know, it's just like how a mother. You saw that story about the woman where the man that killed her son in America, and then she hugged the man in the courtroom. For her, she had forgiven the man. That was it. That was closure for her, you know. So everyone is different. Everyone is different. Do you understand? I'm just saying that it's important to involve the victim when we make this decision. Let's involve the victim when we make these decisions. Yes.
Okay. So, final question before I let you go tonight. What sort of punishment do you think is appropriate for a rapist?
Punishment.
Depending on the degree of the rape.
What's the law? What's the law right now? Yeah, there are different forms. They
wanted to adopt castration, but the lawmakers threw it out of the. They said no to it. But for me, I would say castration,
a first-time offense,
depending on the degree.
A first-time offense and a serial rapist.
It's different.
Serial rapists need greater. Yeah, there are two different things, because that serial. When you talk about serial rapists, most likely there's a lack of remorse. We're talking about probably an antisocial personality or a psychopathic personality, you know. That is a bit extreme. Those kind of people, they should be locked up, because they will still do it again. So once you have someone that's done it twice, 3 times, he's going to continue doing it. Especially when you sit with him and there's a lack of remorse. He's going to keep doing it until the day he dies, you know. So those kind of people should just be locked up for life.
Locked up.
But if he's a first timer, whichever one, I don't know. But a first timer, sometimes peer pressure. So it's about finding out the motives behind it, and then, you know, let the law run its course.
Really, thank you so much, Dr. Jibunoh. It's been insightful talking to you. One final word from you. What do you want us to do more? What do you expect from everybody right now as we are talking about this? Thank God for social media. Most of these cases are coming to the fore. We are now seeing what ordinarily won't have heard, except you go from village to village. But now everything happening is coming, and we're seeing it just right before us. What are your final words?
Okay, let's stop shaming and blaming the victims, because truly the fault does not lie with the victim. A girl wearing a miniskirt and a leha that is covered and you only see the eyes. The eleha can be raped. The girl with the miniskirt can be raped. Anybody can be raped. So the fault doesn't lie with the victim. It's actually the perpetrator. The perpetrator has anger issues, has control issues. That's where we need to focus. So if you have a friend, you're a guy, you have a friend, you know your friend has been raping girls, send your friend to a psychologist. Really, stop looking at it, because tomorrow he can rape your daughter.
Yes,
that's the truth. So if you have a friend, you know your friend rapes girls, send your friend to a psychologist. Let him get the help he needs, you know, because before the law, you know, catches up with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So get your friends the help they need. The impact or the weight of psychologists and psychiatrists, you know, in this country we're not really optimizing the weight of the coaches, the psychologists, the psychiatrists. We're not utilizing them enough, you know. You notice your friend has raped a girl once, twice, carry him to a psychologist. Try and dig out what the underlying issues and help him, you know, address those issues early on. So I think those are my parting words.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We enjoyed you. Subsequently, we may have you 1 or 2 times. let's see how we keep this conversation ongoing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate. And that's Dr.
Thank you for
Jibunoh, the
having me.
consultant, the
Thank you.
psychiatrist, and the psychologist tonight. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, good
Okay.
night. All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be coming up with another episode, likely on Tuesday, and I'll be having another one on Thursday. So stay tuned. Let's talk about this. Now, if you have anyone who can talk about it, I need men. I need men because I want men to have this conversation with their sons, with the youths around them. The young men are looking up to these elderly men, and they need to be the ones to set examples. The way Christ told the women to model for the young women, you know, so that the young women will emulate their good works. That's exactly what we expect from our elderly men, so that the young men will see them as role models, and probably the narrative will change. So thank you so much, guys, for staying tuned, for watching. Thank you. I love you all. I'll see you guys again on Tuesday and on Thursday. Bye-bye. And now.